Now comes the last part. It's a long part, but this is the last part where sovereignty. What do you mean by sovereignty? We studied the ethics part, somewhat the economic part, angle to it, attached to it. Now the political part with trade deals. What is sovereignty? What is sovereignty? Sovereignty most basically means you are the boss of your own thing. At personal level, at individual level, at national level, or at the world scale. When you are your own boss, being your own boss in governing your land and people, when you see at the national level, this is the most lame meaning to most people who will understand that when you are the boss, you are the king of yourself, of your country and of your people. That is sovereignty. And you are not what? You are not being driven. You are not being attached on your decisions are solely based on your demands, your people's demands. That is it. Okay. Now, this is a very loud term which we've been hearing. Trump created tariffs, okay? Because it is like we've seen catastrophes, we judge them as human-made catastrophes and nature-based. This is an economic catastrophe created by this gentleman, and this famous image. Everyone on earth remembers this. All the economic people, everyone who's interested in the market or money, okay, or business, every single person on this earth was affected just due to this placard, I'll say in simple. And remember, China was heading this list. Okay? China was heading this list. To understand what is going on, we have to take perspective of two countries. Okay? Irony is, both are not favorable to India. One, USA, in the present context you are seeing, and the other will take the stance of China also, to understand what sovereignty means and what China is also doing. But in the end, the only question which we have to ask ourselves is what? What is the leverage we have? That is the whole point of this slide, this video. What is the leverage we have? We are standing our ground, but why isn't the world listening to us? Why isn't the soon to be third largest economy being given the gravity, the importance which it deserved? Why? That is the question. Okay, see, remember, China was heading this reciprocal tariffs list. Now see what happened. This is also again a 30-second video. See, my idea is to keep videos as short as simple. You can understand it. But if you want to see the lengthy part, you can always Google, YouTube, your wishes. Okay. First I'll explain. Now first just watch this 30 seconds video. Then I'll tell you what happened. Okay. It's a bare minimum video, and whatever he's saying is more than self-explanatory. So you don't need any other source. Okay.
You see, at first, when someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. What eventually occurs is, first, homegrown industries start relying on government protection in the form of high tariffs. They stop competing and stop making the innovative management and technological changes they need to succeed in world markets. And then, while all this is going on, something even worse occurs. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. The result is more and more tariffs, higher and higher trade barriers, and less competition. So soon, because of the prices made artificially high by tariffs that subsidize inefficiency and poor management, people stop buying. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. The memory of all this occurring back in the 30s made me determined when I came to Washington to spare the American people the protectionist legislation that destroys prosperity. Now, it hasn't always been easy. There are those in the Congress, just as there were back in the 30s, who want to go for the quick political advantage, who risk America's prosperity for the sake of a short-term appeal to some special interest group, who forget that more than 5 million American jobs are directly tied to the foreign export business, and additional millions are tied to imports. For those of us who lived through the Great Depression, the memory of the suffering it caused is deep and searing. And today, many economic analysts and historians argue that high tariff legislation passed back in that period, called the Smoot-Hawley Tariff, greatly deepened the Depression and prevented economic recovery.
Saw the video? Now see, what this gentleman, the former president, is simply saying, tariffs on trade is bad. Most basic. Tariffs on trade is worse. Okay? That is what he tried to explain. Trust is again the basis of trade deals, as we saw in when Piyush Goyal sir said, our trade and commerce minister, trust is the basis of trade deals. Okay. Now this was the idea that USA has earned its supremacy because of these ideas. Ages before President Trump, this was the American abiding idea, the American abiding dream. Why do you want to go to USA, work there, study there? Because what? Land of the free. But now it's no more free. Understood? So this was the idea that everything should be, to most of its people, free. Trade should be free. The capitalist idea. What was it? Now what happened? See, you can understand. Then President Trump in his second term, not the first term, came and he said no. Okay, he just said no. Now you need to also understand the geopolitical context behind this. Okay. If you will go to the behind the idea of, okay, that's not important. That the whole idea is based on what? His voter base. Okay. The whole idea is based on his voter base, but he didn't think it through. That's not so important. We don't discuss politics over here. Now see, understood? Integrity and sovereignty. Okay. These two are the key terms we'll see. India and China, as I told you, we'll see two respective countries, okay, in the alignment of integrity and sovereignty. How we stood out, how both India and China stood out. They stood there, we held to our ground. We were not pushed around. But how China won this race? China beat USA in its own market strategy, in its own tariff trade. But how did you do it? And we having the same stance. How are we at our back foot? That's the question. India and China. See, India stood its ground, and what did China did? China retaliated. That is the only difference between what we did and China. Trump imposed sanctioned tariffs on both of us. To some extent, initial tariffs on us was around 20-25%, and on China, it gradually within a week, it reached up to 145%. But what did China do? China did exactly the same. It retaliated. It showed greater strength, greater resilience. What we did? We waited and watched. We did nothing else. See, we didn't retaliate, but we stood our ground that we will not be pushed around. We will not accept the terms and conditions what USA is trying to say. We will not do that. China stepped not one, it meant a million steps ahead and retaliated. That was the changing benchmark. USA didn't expect that. The world didn't expect that. India didn't expect that, but China did that. What were the consequences? See, consequences is a positive and a negative word. When it's in your favor, it's positive, and the other time it's negative. So, initially, the whole world came up and said, okay, China will, the whole economy. Trump has used many words. He's used the word of dead economy for India and Russia. Lame word, but he's used it. In the same manner, the whole world said, now China is retaliating. So, it will be lost. Its GDP will go down, its economy will go down, but that was all symbolic. Now it's been after April, it's October, it's November now. Now we are seeing what? The test of time. Whether that symbolic event is able to deliver substance. What happens? Time tells you whether your decision was right or wrong. Now the time is here to judge. And these are AI created images. Both our countries are saying, मैं झुकेगा नहीं. Iconic dialogue. Everyone knows it. Other countries negotiated. This was a different. That is why we've taken an example of India and China. Because other countries were ready to negotiate. Other countries were ready to bend. We were not. All the countries aside, India and China on the other side. Now what happened? So many months have passed. Why is it again in the news? Okay, why is it again in the news? See, there's a, I've written over here, APEC, Asia Pacific Economic. Now what happened is, both these gentlemen, the President of the United States and Xi Jinping, the President of China, were about to meet for the last 6 months, but it was going on and off. Like a love-hate relationship. It was going on and off. But on the sidelines of APEC, they met in Busan, South Korea. But this meeting was so important that everyone has forgotten what the whole idea was. APEC, right? But now everyone has forgotten APEC. At the APEC summit on the sidelines, G2 happened. Nomenclature term used by what? USA itself. USA, the country which was saying that it is the superpower, and it was trying to show everyone that China is, not even a superpower. But now USA itself has accepted what? G2, USA and China, the G2. You might have heard G5, G7, G20, but the new G2. And remember, in the first slide of tariff reciprocal, I showed you what? China was heading the list of. It was not an alphabetical order, right? China was heading the list, and now Trump was dying. Just a saying. Trump was dying to meet him to crack a trade deal because the loss for USA, the inflation which USA is suffering, was greater than what China was suffering because of whole this tariff phenomena. The two kingpins, according to USA itself, G2, right, were meeting, and What did they start? Matlab, what was the result? They met, they talked. What was the result? First thing, no signing of any agreement. You have seen in ages like from war declarations to defense pacts to just communication pacts to just pacts. What happened? In the end, whoever the representatives are, they show a big plate and they show it signed and say this is the trade deal, or some sign of agreement happens when signing is done on some form of contractual paper. Okay? But here the best takeaway was the whole world was watching it and no signing of any agreements. Okay? No signing of any agreements. See, if you see these two images or if you've just followed geopolitics, okay, international relations for some time, you'll know Trump is a man of lot of words. Matlab, he's just a man of words. Not grave words, not gravity words, just words. And Xi Jinping speaks less, tweets less, but his words are respected by his own countrymen. Forcefully, willingly, hota na, democratically, we don't know. But his words are, what he says matters. But what is the story of Trump? He might say the same thing today. He might say, change the same thing, which he himself said in the evening. As, see, I don't know what I'll do. And recently the same thing has been reiterated by our general, okay, Anil sir, and he said the same thing. Trump doesn't know the next day what he will say, and he knows it. Okay, it's all a game of what? See, when you, it's going out of the topic, when you choose a businessman to be a politician, the core is the businessman, right? He's been the business for the last 60, 40, 50 years. That's what he's trained to do. That is his mind. Every impulse is what is trained to do business, to make profit. So such politicians, when they become such politicians, it leads to disaster. We are seeing that. Okay? It's right in front of everyone's eyes. Now see, when they both met, everyone was hoping that the whole economy will be again back on its track. What happened? You will see the power structure according to what? The negotiations which you are ready to make, how much you are ready to bend. What US did was decrease tariff drastically from 145%, and Trump in some video has himself said it is not sustainable. Okay? He knew it's not sustainable. All the people, all the economics knew it's not sustainable. But still he did that. In the same page you will see China. What did China suspend? China suspended curbs on rare earth mineral. China agreed to buy soybean. See, soybean is very important. In the next slide we'll see, very important for USA because the whole Trump voter base is most of them agriculturists, most of them are farmers, and soybean is directly related to farming. And the last is import high-end chips from USA. Okay. These were the things which China agreed to do, which to some extent just America was begging it to do, and in retaliation, or sorry, not in retaliation, in good gesture, USA said we'll decrease the tariff. See, USA was this desperate. That is whole the idea. Now, you understood the present context, right? What is happening in October end? G2 happened. Okay. Now to understand the whole larger picture, you need to see the history. On 10th April, this iconic image, this iconic reciprocal tariffs, and again China leading the list. Okay. It was mostly based on China on that day and a few other countries in a sequence, but mostly based on China. What happened was, he announced this, the whole stock market fell down, tens of trillions of dollars lost. Mutual respect, mutual trust, everything was at stake now. So what he decided was, let's suspend it for 90 days. Matlab, the other day is coming up. As I said, he doesn't know what he'll do tomorrow. He came up with an idea. Okay, the whole Trump administration came up with an idea. And within the next day, he said, okay, we are suspending it now for the next 90 days. But it was not suspended for China. China was an exception. China was the only country for which the tariffs were continued. But now what do we see? Both are meeting. Trump is Trump technically, and logically Trump is the one who is trying to persuade China these days. Okay? We'll see how this love-hate relationship is also involving. Now what was the response? Remember the response of this time. We are talking April. Okay? April May, what was going on? Response or reaction. See, response is a positive word. We often say, no, we should always learn to respond, not react. But we responded, humbly, peacefully. China reacted. That is why China has an edge also. Okay? India was silent, observing like we always do. See, our history has taught us to learn to wait, watch and observe. Okay? That is how we make a stand. We analyze. And see, we are not an expansionist country. We are not an aggressive country. China to some extent is. We've got our own values which we stick to. That is why we are respected all over the world. That is why no one questions our integrity. And what we did, India was silent, observing, no pressure tactics. Whatever pressure tactics USA put on, we just let it pass. We didn't see. If you'll follow again the geopolitical news, our Prime Minister, Honorable President Narendra Modi ji, he is somehow trying to avoid a meeting with Trump. In any meetings, hota na, he's sending a foreign minister, but he's trying to having a direct contact, a direct talk to talk, because we are silent. Okay? That's our own strong gesture. See, silence speaks a lot. You might be knowing that. And again, the part 2 of the iconic image, Modi ji is wildfire. Okay? And now what? This is the whole idea of today's topic. What is India's leverage? To understand that, you have to, see, it's not clickbait. You have to understand what is everything is going on and what is our strength. What is our leverage means, what is our strength. To understand, we'll have to understand how Trump is trying to make a deal with China. What does China have which we don't have? What does the first economy in the world is asking the second economy to do, but not the third, which is India, about to be the third largest economy? Why are we not getting that attention, that leverage which China is getting? What did China do? China retaliated. I said we responded, China reacted, retaliated. China imposed 125% tariff on USA. USA did the same. China said we'll also do the same. What happened? Restrictions on rare earth minerals. Stopped buying soybean, as I showed in the earlier slide. The whole voter base of Trump is mostly farmers. So what it impacted? They did a research, they did a study, and what they decided was Trump is trying to impress its voter base, and China attacked directly its voter base. It's not visible, but roughly, USA exports 26 billions of soybean to the whole world. Exports. From that, 12 something billion, roughly 12 billion is exported to China itself, and China stopped it. What happened? Out of 26 billion, 20 billion immediate loss. Immediate loss. If you see the graph, you'll find it that just from the next month itself, the soybean graph went down drastically. It just dipped. That was, this did a study and impacted. And second, what did it do? Rare earth minerals everywhere in news. What is rare earth minerals? Rare earth elements. Okay, I'll cover that in the next slide. It's simple. It's a misnomer. It's not rare. Okay, it's very commonly found. If you see the periodic table, the last 2 lines are rare earth minerals. Okay, I'll just bring up a 5-minute video on it, but just a brief understanding. It's not rare. The whole idea is not rare. Refining it is very costly. That is the idea. Separating it from its core is very costly. It's not rare at all. Okay. Now this is the whole scenario that we responded, they reacted. What happened next? This image, you have to memorize this image. It is very important for your mains also, just to show. Okay. What was the result? Increased cost of living in USA. As simple. See, USA is not a manufacturing hub. USA is a software hub. US is known for what? It's Silicon Valley. It's multi-tech, billion tech, now trillion tech companies. But it is not known for manufacturing. It is known for mostly chips and softwares. Okay. That is why they dominate. Everything is based on chips and software. Okay. So, increased cost of living in USA. What? The Trump administration thought that everyone will back down, bend down, and they will win and they'll have more money. But China, the producer of the world, the manufacturing house of the whole world, retaliated. So, there was, if China is not, see this, China imports from US is 145 billion. And US imports from China is 450 billion. So, who is at a greater loss? Of course, US is at a greater loss. It's almost 1 into 3 times the loss. Into 3 times. So, how much time can USA afford this? Not much. Who is having greater losses? China can bear the loss of 145 billion, but USA at the same side is having a loss of 440 billion. Imagine the magnitude. No one thought of this calculation because everyone thought we are USA and we will do it. But no, the world said no. Okay. Negatively impacted the US dollar and the main weapon of US supremacy. There is the only weapon of US is now dollar. Okay. The tech is always there, but tech to some extent is what? Defense related. But dollar is what? Everything related. Dollar is oil related. Dollar is services related. And dollar is of course defense related. So it impacted the main weapon of US. What started? Everyone started to think of de-dollarization. There should be some other currency which should have the same power in times like this, which no one anticipated, which is the second currency, which is the alternate currency to dollar. So an idea is starting to float. It has already been floating from many ages, but now it is gaining ground. That we need what? De-dollarization. We cannot have an authoritarian regime. Okay. Now, this is the month of May. It's the month of May. Both agree to reduce tariffs for 90 days. Both who? See, India is silent. India is now out of the picture. We are just trying to wait and watch, and we are trying to talk and have a backdoor deal. Okay? Not in the front. We are just humble and we are sitting. But in May, both USA and China precisely agreed to reduce tariffs for 90 days again. Initially, USA was confident. They reduced the tariff for 90 days for all the countries except China. Now, they are making special provisions for China. In the name of what? Trade talks. India is also having trade talks. We are having trade talks for the last 7, 8, 10 months. But we didn't get this leverage. See, but China is getting. USA reduced tariff on China to 40% from 145%. And contrary to what happened for India? We had earlier 20% tax, 25%. Now it's up to 50%. And in the same case, China is getting leverage from 145 to 40. And for us, from 20 to 50. Okay? That is how China has reacted. China has made resilience. It has showed its strength. We have to do the same. We have to learn. We are the most emerging global power. Kaun hai? India. Now what happened in August? Trump administration revised tariff rates. And it revised tariff rates for the whole world, including India. But it did not mention the name of China. After reducing to 40%, it did not mention the name of China. Why? Because in the name of what? We are having talks. We are having talks. Trump administration, again, whenever I mean Trump, it's the Trump administration. Okay, it means the President of the United States. We are not valuing Trump's word, we are valuing the words of the President of the United States. So when I am saying this, it means the whole Trump administration is trying to talk to everyone. Okay? Trying to make a deal. Okay? But that's what they want. But there was no mention of China because they're trying to lure China in a sense. Ki, bhai, please come and do a deal with us because of this. This is what no one anticipated except China. They have been preparing for this since decades, if not ages. See, what China was doing in the background, what we are doing still, we are just learning, we are observing. There are a lot of things we are doing in the background itself. That is why we've become the fourth largest economy, about to be the third largest economy. We also have been doing a lot. But at the national scale, at the world scale, at the global scale, China has an edge. You have to accept that. It is the manufacturing of the world, manufacturing house, manufacturing plant of the world. And we are not. What we are important, just remember, we are the king of the service sector. That is how we have to use it. In the last slide, I will tell you. Because the whole chronology will be disturbed. We are the kings in the service sector. How we can use that. What China was doing in the background. Learn this. Export control on rare earth minerals. Kept increasing regulation and recently asked Indian government itself, because see, India does not have good relations with China or USA, but there's an economical relationship which is going on because China is the export destination of, China exports everything to the world. For example, rare earth. We also buy rare earths from China. Because USA was putting tariffs on China, so China halted rare earths export to USA, but not to India. So there was an idea floated that Indians or some other countries might export indirectly rare earth to USA. So what it did was, it simply said, recently asked Indian government not to export rare earth minerals to China. China wants American guarantee from India, promised that rare earth magnets supplied will not be sent to America. And it has done this for many other countries, large economies also. What they want is simply not to send what we are sending you to USA. Okay, that's what it means. And see, understand how China is tightening its grip month by month, day by day, and it has been doing this for last 40-50 years. We'll see. This is what, just say why China is a production house of the world. It could have stopped, it could have tightened its grip on any of the products, but why rare earth minerals? Because USA is a tech nation. Everything in USA, the dominance of USA is based on two things. It's tech and it's dollar. Dollar is impacted, we see, and tech. What does tech need? Everything, the most simplest of the things in tech. Mobile phone, car, satellite, whatever you can think of. The most basic things need tech. And every tech needs what? Rare earth minerals. So if there are no rare earth minerals or the supply is shortened, tech will be impacted. If tech is impacted, USA is impacted. That is why China strategically, it was ready, it is ready. China is always ready for such thing. It was ready to impact USA where it mattered the most. Therefore, it could have stopped anything. But China also hurted USA where it mattered, rare earth minerals, because it disrupted the whole tech economy of US. The dominant part of it, the $1 trillion economy of US is impacted through rare earth. Okay, now see, a little more, just before APEC. We understood April, then May, August. Now APEC had in October, just before August, what happened? Both of them tried to share their strength, before meeting someone. you directly, indirectly persuade them. You try to show them your strength. Now you're sitting with me in the meeting. Just keep that in mind that I've got a bigger weapon. I've got a bigger step. I'm the bigger power. That's both of them tried to show. Okay? They're directly, indirectly trying to show it to the whole world. What USA did was, it tweeted this nuclear thing. Okay? And it's flooded the internet, flooded the whole wide, intellectual, somewhat peaceful world. Now, just because of one tweet, the whole world is again into a arms race. It was always there, and arms race is still going on. If you're just reading it, it's there. But now nuclear race is in the open, and it's not being hidden. It's in the open just because of one tweet. It's his own social media platform. Just understand it's sort of a tweet. Just before meeting Xi Jinping, he tweeted this just to show that, remember, I am the greater power. But China said, okay, I'll also show you. What China did was, increase regulation. Now, if you are exporting, need license from government to export rare earth minerals, applicable even for foreign companies. Now everyone, no need to go in the details, everyone needs license from the government for anything related to rare earth minerals. That was the idea. Now the impact of this was, see, everyone in USA started feeling the impact immediately, because if tech is hurt, USA is hurt. So what USA directly tried to do? Pressurize Ukraine. USA directly said in an open interview that we have supplied you 500 billion worth of weapons. What do we need? We need access to your rare earth. That was not a negotiation. That was proper pressure tactics. That we are supplying you war weapons. We need a part of your land to do what? To extract rare earth. Second, it had a tussle with Denmark. Now it's saying we'll buy Greenland, because Greenland is famous for. It's not famous actually. There have been reports, theories that which suggest, scientific theories which suggest that Greenland has immense amount of rare earth. Now because USA is meddling with China, it is pressurizing other countries just to gain access to rare earth. Okay, China has understood all this and it is tightening its regulation. Now and it's just an image, chessboard politics, both are trying to play. This is an important image, remember, see. I'm sorry if I couldn't pronounce it. The Middle East has oil, it should be very visible. China has rare earth, and this is what, this image was in 1970s. Imagine at that time, it's 1970s or 1980s, like prior 50 years earlier, China was far ahead. It knew what rare earth is, it knew the importance of rare earth, and today it has been paying off. Today, imagine, the work of this president of that time, China, is paying off today. That is called visionary. We have to become that. We have to overpower China. If we have to overpower China, we have to have such visions. Now, every answer has to have statistics and data on. Now, the whole fight is of rare earth minerals. Hota na? Attention economy is there. Okay? Now, rare earth is there. Only these two images will make you understand the importance of China. Okay? Very authentic images. These two images have been taken from International IEA, International Energy Agency, and this is the Hindu. If you are an aspirant, you have to know the Hindu. If you're not an aspirant, also you can know the Hindu. China digs in rare earth, commands global market. What this image is simply trying to show is, China has 60%. Most simple. China's world's largest producer of rare earth contributed 60% of global production. 60%, imagine. Okay, now some of you might have say, okay, 60 to hai. 40% the rest of the world has. This is what we're talking about, production. But over here, regional composition, permanent, after production, when it is separated, when it is refined, that China controls is 92%. See, this orange is China, orange is China, orange is China. In mining, this much. In refining, this much. Magnet manufacturing, see. If you see the line, 92%. And just, if you want to remember, see, there's nothing to remember. In what rare earth minerals are used? Cars, electronic vehicle, industrial motor, civilian aircraft, surveillance drone, jets, AI data center, offshore wind turbine. All this is important for USA. Jets, surveillance drones, all this is important for the tech industry of USA. And China is directly impacted at. China controls what? 92%. Just imagine if a country is controlling anything of 92% and it tries to choke, it can choke the whole world for that thing, that material. That is what China is precisely doing. And that is why America is ready to talk, America is ready to bend. You understood the whole thing? Now this is the last slide. Okay. What is India's stand? what do we need to change? Okay, it's all, see, this whole slide is somewhat hypothetical. Okay, imagine it that way, that you have the power, but the amount of unity, the amount of strength you need to harness the power, in the present context, is next to impossible. 50% tariff, one of the highest in the world. Okay, we don't have any bargaining power. What sort of bargaining power are we talking about? Economic strength, export strength. We don't have it. We actually don't have it. In respect of USA and China, there's 100 billion trade deficit. We have a 100 billion trade deficit with China. USA has a roughly 300 billion trade deficit with China. We saw that green graph, right? Forex, just compared to China. China has 3 trillion forex. Our whole GDP is roughly 3 point some trillion. And its forex reserves are 3 trillion. And in context, India has 700 billion. 700 billion is also huge, magnanimous Himalayan amount. But when you are comparing to the second largest economy, China, it's like 1/4, 1/5. See, we have to develop. These numbers show that we have to go a long way. Most importantly, we are not friendly. Friendly to some, whatever Trump said, that Modi is his very good friend, and our honorable Prime Minister saying Trump is my gentleman friend. But when it comes to money, that shows the depth of the friendship. Okay? That shows how entangled, how in sync USA and India and China are at this present time. It's not. We are aloof. Hota na? We have been sidelined to some extent. So we are not. Now, what is India's strength? As I told you, we have only, see, this is again, I'm repeating it very loudly. It's just a hypothetical example. Okay? Like China used what was its strength, rare earth minerals, to choke the US market. It can choke any market in the world, including India. Even we need rare earth minerals for everything. Now we are trying to have deals with other countries, topic for another day. Okay? But what strength do we have? The only strength that we have at a global scale is what? Service sector. Google, Microsoft, Apple, whatever you name it, Indians are there. Okay? But are we united is the question. Like when China wanted, it choked all the rare earth minerals. If all these individuals, all these Indians, okay, who are running the Silicon Valley, who's running the tech valley of USA, just imagine, if for once we showed unity, if for once we just tweeted that, show respect towards India, get these tariffs down, just one tweet, or we will stop working. The impact that would have, the whole world will come to a standstill. If all the Indians employed in USA, through H1 visa, through getting citizenship, whatever, what is our strength? It's the service sector. That is a USP. It's a forte, and the whole world knows it. We run the Silicon Valley. But for once, if we all stood together and said, USA, if we said the USA Trump to stop this, or we all will stop working, like China did in the case of rare earth minerals, stop bullying us or we'll stop supplying. In the same way, if we say stop bullying India or we will stop working, just one mail or one tweet, the impact that would have. I'll leave you this topic with just this thought. That is the unity we want. That is the unity we have to have, so that the world gives us the respect that we are thinking of commanding. We're about to be the third largest economy. We have to take steps in that direction. And one of them direction is, a part of economy is unity. That is also an ethical angle. We have to be united. Thank you.